Let P be the point on the unit circle corresponding to an angle of t radians. Find the coordinates of P with the exact values of the trigonometric functions of t whenever possible. We have two t values to work with here. We have t equals 5 pi over 4, and we have t equal negative pi over 4. Well, let's sketch the unit circle first. I'll make a good sized picture here so that we can refer to it as we solve this problem. The unit circle is the circle whose equation is x squared plus y squared equals 1. It has a radius of 1 unit, and it is centered at the origin. And we can mark down a few relevant angles here. In particular, we're dealing with multiples of pi over 4. Pi over 4 is an angle of 45 degrees. Pi over 4 radians corresponds to an angle of 45 degrees. And the point on the unit circle corresponding to that is xy equals the square root of 2 over 2 and square root of 2 over 2. That's also the value of the cosine of pi over 4 and the sine of pi over 4, because the cosine and sine give us the x and y coordinates of points on the unit circle. Now, we're asked to find the value of the coordinates for point on the unit circle corresponding to 5 pi over 4. Well, if this is 1 pi over 4, then 2 pi over 4 is 90 degrees. 3 pi over 4 would take us to a 45 degree angle in the third quadrant. That's actually 135 degrees total. Another pi over 4 brings us to 4 pi over 4, or just pi, which is a 180 degree angle. And 5 pi over 4 brings us down to here. So we're asking the question, what is the xy pair that corresponds to this point P when the angle we're dealing with is 5 pi over 4. By the symmetry in the diagram, we see that the x-coordinate for this point should be the opposite of the x-coordinate for the point in the first quadrant corresponding to an angle of pi over 4. So this x-coordinate is negative square root of 2 over 2. The y-coordinate, however, is the same, and that will just be the square root of 2 over 2. Now that's for the angle in the second quadrant. The angle in the third quadrant, the coordinates of the point in the third quadrant that we're seeking to find, will have an x-coordinate of negative square root of 2 over 2, because these are on the same vertical line, but we'll have a negative square root of 2 over 2 for the y-coordinate instead of the positive square root of 2 over 2 for the y-coordinate here in the second quadrant. That's because now we've dipped down below the x-axis and our y values are negative. And so this answers the question for part A. P of 5 pi over 4 is the point negative root 2 over 2 comma negative root 2 over 2. To answer part B, we need to go in a direction opposite the direction we were going before. We'll start with a positive angle, or rather a 0 radian angle, pointing in the positive x direction, but then we need to open up in the negative direction for angles, which is the clockwise direction. That does bring us to a point here, pxy, and its x and y coordinates can be found in a manner similar to what we just did. The x coordinate for this point will be the same as the x coordinate for the point we started with in the first quadrant, that was root 2 over 2. And the y coordinate, though, will be the same as the one we found in the third quadrant. That would be the negative root 2 over 2. Again, that's because the point is in the third, well, this point is in the fourth quadrant, and it's below the x-axis, so it's going to have negative, don't forget that, I think that the pen didn't quite catch the negative sign there. This will be a negative y-coordinate for the point corresponding to negative pi over 4.